Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday here on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your host, Eric. This week we are talking about mixing religions. So this week we have a question from Ruineg. I'm just going to cut right to the quick. Basically, they wanted to know, in what ways do you think the Bible can help pagans learn about deity? Whether you think there's possibly room for a sort of mix of the faiths, and how do our philosophies stand together? Now, they go on to talk about that they've had kind of an opportunity to, and this question was months ago, so I'm hoping that there's information and they actually did do this, but they had the opportunity to join a Bible study group, and the people involved were not going to be all uppity, for lack of a better term, about, you're going to hell, you godless heathen kind of a thing. So they figured it was going to be an awesome opportunity for them, and it sounds like it could be an awesome opportunity to join a Bible study group, because they've always been kind of interested in the Bible, and some of the stories and the ways that the texts play out is really, really interesting, especially when it comes down to kind of the way that the belief systems differ as opposed to how they're the same. The second part of the question will also be tied in by question is by Wild Silverwolf, and they said, could we talk about the idea of someone calling themselves a Christo-pagan, Christo-witch, Christian Wiccan, whatever, and being pagan and Wiccan having Christian themes in their practice. Also, someone being Christian and having pagan themes in the practice, and they specifically put other than the ones that people say the church stole. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, getting right into the meat of it, the first question, in what ways do I think that the Bible can help pagans learn about deity? I don't personally believe that there's any real difference in the way people believe in their deity between Christianity and any sort of paganism, really. It's just a matter of whether or not you're polytheistic, or hard or soft polytheist, or a monotheist, or a duotheist, or it's one of those things where either you believe that deity is an actual thing, or you believe that deity is an idea. So when it comes to people who are monotheists and firmly believe that God is a person, or is an entity that exists, and you can talk to him and interact with him, is really not that different than the actual belief of hard polytheists who believe that their gods are people, or rather they're not humans, but they're a higher being that actually exists and interacts with people. Those beliefs are really similar enough, in my opinion, that I don't really differentiate between the two, hard polytheism and monotheism. There are also people who, as monotheists, believe in the idea of what God does, and believe in that as an altruistic expectation of what we try to strive to be. So there are people who are soft monotheists as well. But I think that any opportunity you can take to learn more about another religion besides your own, especially if it interests you in some way, is a good opportunity to take if it's available to you, especially without persecution or the drawbacks that kind of come with crossing cultures. So I believe that it's a good idea. I think if you have the opportunity to do it without having Christianity or Catholicism or Abrahamic belief shoved down your throat, and you can learn it as an actual learning experience as opposed to a conversion experience, I guess I could put it, I would say go for it. The second part of this comes to people who talk about themselves as Rich does. He calls himself, I believe he calls himself a Christian witch, or a Christo witch, or what, I don't remember the exact term, sorry Rich. But if we have, I know that some people have issue with anyone who wants to call themselves that. Well, I want to first point out that magic craft and witchcraft and magic in general is not something that is specifically designed around paganism. It's something that's designed around culture. It's something that the herbalists of old and the alchemists of old, before we started looking into the scientific background of what these herbs and chemicals and things that we put into our bodies that help us, before we started looking into the science of that, it was magic. And it was something that families sort of traded their secrets back and forth, and they passed them down to their children. And those people were considered witches and sorcerers and warlocks and things like that. They were expected to heal when they could, and they were expected to help whenever they were needed. And although those people were inherently pagan, because that at the time pagan simply meant people of the land, although that word has changed over the course of the years to mean anyone who's basically non-Abrahamic, it also kind of refers to people who are even non-spiritual, but they believe in these holistic remedies that they have passed along through their family histories and whatnot. So calling yourself a Christo anything, if you're Christian, that's fine. If you're a pagan or a Wiccan or anything else that uses the Christian or Catholic pantheons, the Abrahamic pantheons that usually are specifically placed in a Christian or Catholic or Muslim background, I would say that calling yourself a Christo-pagan or a Christian Wiccan or whatever still qualifies as an avid label. And if that's something that you identify with, go for it. And I realize there are people who are going to disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your opinion. This is my opinion. This is my perspective on things, obviously. But when you have Christian themes in your practice, that doesn't necessarily make you Christian, but using the word Christo or Christian to describe what you do and what you believe, that's apt and that's helpful if you're trying to explain it to somebody else. So why not? Now, the idea of, and this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and I know this is going kind of overlong, especially for what my videos usually are, but when you're talking about the practices that the Christian church uses that didn't necessarily start in Christianity, everything from the Catholic incense and wafers and the idea of the sacrament, the wine and bread being kind of like cakes and ale sort of stuff. Well, that sort of stuff has been passed on, and every culture has come up with their own version of that in one way or another, whether it be sacrifices or some sort of communion. That sort of thing is not, that nobody has the claim to be the first one, unless you're the prolific Neanderthal sun worshipping religion, which I wouldn't personally have a name for. You didn't invent it. I mean, nobody invented it. It's an idea that came up separately in many different places at many different times. Just because they also use it doesn't mean they took it from us as pagans. It's one of those things where I realize that there are very, very definite similarities, and they may have gotten the idea from pagan cultures and pagan religions, and I don't see the problem. I don't, and if they want to claim that they came up with it, they invented it, whatever, they can think whatever they want. I don't have to be right all the time, even if I know in my head that there's an older cultural version of what they do. It doesn't mean that it gives me the right to be snarky about it and get on people's case over it. And it's just one of those things where I feel personally that having the truth is enough for me. And if somebody asks, I will tell them where I think it came from, but I'm not going to offer up that information just to cause a fight, because I know that's what it does. Anyhow, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to post them in the comment section below. I know this was a little more controversial than I usually get, but what do you do? So, again, comments, questions, concerns. There's a section down in the underneath bits. Feel free. But thanks for watching, everybody, and of course, until next time, Odin be with you.